Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Thriving LDS Singles. We're so excited to have you here today, and my co-host Kim. Hi Kim.
Hello.
Together again. And today we're interviewing Tom, IT guy from BYU. A guy that Kim picked up.
Don't say picked up, Kate.
She picked him up the conference, so yes, it's
there you go.
Oh, I like that term. So,
am I blushing now?
Tom is. I'm sorry. Sorry, Tom. So Tom's going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about how he came to be at an LDS divorce conference.
So it probably does look like I'm blushing, but I'm also this color. I am Native American. I'm from the Tlingit tribe of Southeast Alaska. My Tlingit name is Cahook. My tribe is called Tlingit. It's spelled though Tlingit. I'm of the Dakdetan or the Seagull clan. And I was raised on a remote island. My mom raised me in the way of my people. I harvested herring eggs, fished, wore regalia, danced, sang, ate Tlingit foods, did all that kind of thing on my island. We had 17 miles of road total. And I never saw a traffic light until I was 18 and went to Seattle. So it was a very different upbringing. I had a Latter-day Saint friend, and we can talk about that later, but she ended up introducing me to the church. She invited me to a fast and testimony meeting, which absolutely changed my life for the better. And so I joined the church my senior year of high school, young enough to go on a mission, but not having planned on it. I had to quickly earn up some money. I was the only member of my family to join. I was a bass player at the time. And I always keep at least one bass just here in my office at BYU. So awesome. I made money as a professional bass player.
Is that your comfort blanket? Keep you.
Yes, exactly. So I earned up money playing bass and then served a mission in Southern California, Spanish speaking. And being half native, they assumed I was Hispanic, which is fine by me, but I had to learn that accent pretty well or I'd be disappointing people. And then came home, went to BYU, got married, wonderful children, having that brochure life, the brochure that we all signed on for. And then it came crashing down and I found myself single. And it was hard for a long time, but I'm very happy now. Is that enough of an introduction? I don't know what else to. Oh yeah, IT guy. I'm director of computing services for family, home, and social sciences on campus. So I'm the nerd in charge of other nerds for this college.
Good. Oh, that's great. Thank you. So yeah, that came out of the blue. I didn't realize you said you're from Alaska when we were talking before, but I didn't realize you were actually from really from Alaska.
Really from Alaska. That's right. Now you know why I was invited.
I'm sure there's some fun stuff in amongst that. Yes, I actually I spent 6 months of my life when I was a teenager in the very north part of Alberta. So a lot of
similar latitudes. Yes.
Yes.
So I got a text message from a friend of mine in Alaska today, and he said, "You got to love Alaska." He's watching in daylight savings time. There's nothing quite like watching the sun go down while you're having lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, never watching it go down.
And that's fun too.
Yeah. But a very distinct memory. And my father said, yes, we were at a midnight party or something because we were driving home and I watched the sun come down like this big yellow beach ball. And it basically hit the horizon. It didn't go under it at all. It just hit the horizon and bounced straight back up.
Yep, that's home.
I remember that so clearly. It's like, yeah, that was fun. So that very northern hemisphere. I'm actually off on a trip next week to visit Santa in the North Pole. So
really?
Oh wow, very fun.
You'll have to tell me which list I'm on. It's not clear to me.
It changes every day.
So that's going to be remember just how cold the North Pole is.
So Tom, a couple things. We met, gosh, maybe it been over a year ago now. You were helping with the leadership roundtable, the single adult leadership roundtable that Troy put together.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, where we first met. But then I saw you again. How about that?
Picked me up.
The BYU Life After Divorce conference, which was just a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking and somebody mentioned that you are starting a podcast. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks. Sure. It's called An I Single.
And I Single.
An I Single, yes, with the tagline so far, a mission to the singlites.
Okay.
So
and what's your goal? Tell us your goal and the whole concept, who your audience is.
Yes. So after the October conference, we're all on this high, but I was also quite discouraged. And I was having a prayer and whining to the Lord. I'm Lamanite, so I have that murmuring card, just kind of in my DNA. I don't know. So I'm pouring out my heart to Heavenly Father, and I get this very strong spiritual impression that says, Tom, I know it's hard, and I'm sorry it's hard, but you're exactly where I need you to be. I'm like, well, what do you do with that? It kind of takes away all murmuring now. It's like, what, I'm on mission? And so I followed that up with a temple visit, and I'm in the celestial room of the Mount Timpanogos Temple. And that's when I had the inspiration to do something that I think is a little bit different. The idea is for me and for others to write blog posts to a website on practical topics for singles, things like ghosting, the friend zone, all these things that were gray divorce, any kind of topic that we could probably all relate to. And some of them are university professors, people that I talked about. And so we do out this blog and then just keep building these articles where people can go. I want it to be inspirational, leading people to Christ. I want it to be practical. And then to build a community where people can feel like I'm not as alone in these feelings or in wondering these things that I thought, like what your mission is. There's a massive overlap in our Venn diagrams. And so that was the idea. And then every week, I'd want to get two guests that are not necessarily single, but people that can speak with some authority on it and have them just choose one of the blog articles. And then that becomes the topic of the podcast episode. So it's not necessarily about a person or about a person's story, but talking about, adult children and how we can bring family together in a holiday season or whatever that article is that they've chosen. And so that's kind of the direction I had. So all this is literally coming to me in the celestial room of the Mount Timpanogos Temple. And so I get out of the temple and I'm thinking, this is going to take a lot of time. I don't know if I have time like this. And so I told myself I want to prepare like 6 episodes that aren't released so that I can figure out how much time per week this will be before I commit to actually doing it. And I figure I'll do it the first time, it'll take way too long. And the second time, we'll have the learnings from the first time. And the third, maybe I'll feel like I've got it. And that'll give me 3 episodes to kind of time how many hours on that. And then, before building a house, I do have the cost to finish it and then figure out whether or not I want to do it and then launch it in January going forward. So that's been the state that I've been at. But on the very night that I got out of the temple, I'm thinking, what do I even call this? And then that idea of an I Single came to me. I thought, well, that's kind of funny and that's on brand for me. I tend to be quite playful. So I went home, opened up a laptop, and I looked for the domain name in isingle.com. And you can't find good .com domain names anymore. So I knew I wasn't going to get that, but I thought that's a good dropping off point. But I got it. I got an
You
I
knew
Single.
it's meant to be.
Yeah. I'm like, this is like impossible. This feels like a waste being prepared. And so I quickly bought that up, created an email address because that's what you need to start your socials. And I thought, well, what's the next most important thing? And I thought probably a YouTube channel because right now it's the biggest podcast consumption channel. And so I went to YouTube, and to my amazement, an I single channel had not been taken. So I grabbed that up with an email address, and I thought, okay, what's the next thing? For our age group, probably Facebook. So I went to Facebook, and an I single page had not been taken, and an I single group had not been taken. I'm like, this is just impossible. There is just no way any of these things would actually be happening, much less all of them lining up in an evening. But now I'm kind of excited because it feels like a way was prepared. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go grab the TikTok and Instagram because, of course, they're going to be available. And they were. And so I'm very much in the ground stages of this, talking with some people to get the articles built up. I've got the web host domain thing, but I'm not releasing anything yet. Nothing's going to be released until January. So that's the thinking behind it. And by the way, hopefully someday I'm not single. And so I'm setting this whole thing up to be like the Dread Pirate Roberts on The Princess Bride. Wesley isn't the real Dread Pirate Roberts. The real Dread Pirate Roberts retired years ago. He just passes the name along for someone else to kind of keep the business going. So I'm hoping that at some point I'll be able to take an I single and pass it along to someone else who's single and let them kind of keep that going so that I can move into that next phase. So that's the plan. We'll see how it all goes.
Okay, very exciting. Great.
Yeah. Yes, we can't wait to help you celebrate the launch in January. So we'll definitely keep everybody posted and maybe repost this issue when that time comes. You know what? I get that question all the time. What happens if you're not single anymore? What are you going to do? It's kind of like men are looking for an excuse to not date me. Well, she's really caught up in that single thing, so.
Don't want to ruin that for her. Yeah. It's a service, Kim. It's just a service. They're looking out for you.
I have a contingency plan. I have a what do we call, the name's escaping me, but like a succession plan when you're in management.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes.
So we haven't thought of that one, have we, Kim? Oh, is that what's stopping the progression? We haven't
no,
planned.
I have it all figured out, Kay. I do have a succession plan for sure.
Oh, do you? Whoops. You haven't shared that with me. Dear. All right. And so tell us a bit about your life as a single then.
Yeah, what would you say are your top 3 struggles and your top 3 maybe ways you thrive?
Those are good questions. So I live in Orem, Utah. I work at BYU so that people have context for it. Being from Alaska, if I were single, it would kind of work as if, okay, I've dated the 4 girls in my age bracket and there's not chemistry. So there's really nothing else to be done except work. But I'm here in Happy Valley, and there's an amazing community here. In terms of struggles, I would say my biggest one by far is the massive loss of identity. For the longest time, I was dad, and I was granddad, and I was a husband, and I knew who I was when I walked into a room, and I knew what people thought of me. But when all this happened, I call myself involuntarily single. I felt like the ward leper, are they judging me? And I think most of the problem was internal to me and not so much external, although there was some evidence that maybe there was some of that judgment happening too. But I just had this massive loss of identity. It's who am I now? What am I about, when I get up? So that I think was my first struggle. And then my second struggle was belonging, something that most single people can relate to. I have a wonderful ward. In fact, I bought my new house post-divorce in this ward because they're just wonderful, wonderful people that I didn't want to distance from or break that connection with. But it's not the Pittmans anymore and the double dates and all these things. I just feel a lot like an outsider, and I struggle to belong. And so I'm very fortunate to have found in Utah County, we had this pilot program, a committee, which is the pilot's been successful, and they're taking our committee and they're replicating it all over the state. There's going to be 11 committees. But initially, to have fallen in on this committee and found friends that have become a family, and in a way, a new identity, a temporary and secondary identity, because my primary identity is child of God. I'm full on in. Um, and then I guess my third struggle would be, and this is out of order because three should be two. I just hate what's happened to my family. It's hard in family. You know, a holiday like Thanksgiving would have been all about us coming together for better or worse, arguments and playfulness and, whatever it is that we're all going to do. And now there's a little bit of maybe team mom or team dad, or just staying away from everything so that they're not caught into an uncomfortable situation. And it doesn't feel like that should be my life. And so I'm slow to accept that it is my life at the current time. So I would say those are probably my top three struggles.
Yeah,
Mm.
those are amazing because I think those are, all of us go through those same similar things. But certainly the identity and loss of family, I believe, is a lot more significant for men because typically the kids stay more connected to mom. Or, that's kind of the way, more common thing, or the man is the one who moves away. And now there's no family unit. And so they really struggle with that. So we hear that a lot, that is a really hard thing, and probably much harder for men than it is for the women that end up single. So
It hasn't been easy, but it's interesting you say that because I feel like it's harder for women. Um, I was in a meeting about a year ago where the number 14% was quoted. 14% of the men divorcing in the state of Utah stay active in the church. But I was in a meeting a few weeks ago where they said 20%. So, and
that's good.
I'm somewhat
Going the
confident
right direction.
exactly. And I'm somewhat confident in the numbers because they're coming from, area authority type places. But at any rate, so that does indicate a struggle with men, but it creates a struggle for women. Kim and I were just at this divorce conference. Theoretically, every one of us divorcees, there should be some parity in the numbers, right? If there's a divorced man, then there was a divorced woman somewhere. But just anecdotally, I don't know how it felt to you, Kim. It looked like it was like 6-1 women to men. And I think that affects the whole dating dynamic. And I'm not comfortable with it. I am so uncomfortable with it. And I just hate it. And
Why are you not uncomfortable? Do you feel like a piece of meat? Like, or tell us about the discomfort, Tom.
oh boy, look at the time. In several ways, some of the women I've dated are just so wonderful, and some of them are in real financial distress. And sometimes I just wish that we could just help them all. That shouldn't be such a worry in their lives for them.
Mm.
It breaks my heart. I do not like this at all, and it definitely tugs on my heartstrings and affects let's keep eating. Let's go out and eat, the things that I can do as I'm getting to know them that could help with that. But I think it also affects, this is so hard for me. I think because I don't know what I'm doing. And I think people assume that I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. And so I think people might give up if they're interested really quickly because I talk to someone else. And everyone, there's just so much of that. And I don't know what to say.
Do you mean like there's so many to choose from, but is this a little bit of the implication, but that's not really what you mean? Because I know you've also said you just focus on, hey, if I meet one, I'm going to stay focused there until I know
Yeah.
it's move forward or not, right?
Yeah, think I found a way to articulate what I'm trying to say. So I'm visiting with a friend who I've also dated, and she said, "Oh, a part of you has to like it, that you're that one guy in a room with all these girls and that you're getting all this attention." And I told her very firmly, no, no, no part of me likes that. no part of me likes going to a singles family home evening to hear a lesson and to make a comment and to be sitting next to a girl and then seeing someone else's face look frustrated or discouraged because I'm not sitting with them. There's no part of me that likes this. I'm an Alaskan. I'm a native Alaskan. When we catch our quota of fish, we stop fishing. We're not interested in the other fish that are still around or anything. I don't, even if I just need one. I need a good one and a right one. And that's exactly where my head is. I don't really care about that. But the dynamic that it can bring and a competitiveness. You know, you watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, and they have the scarce resource. They have one man and 30 women. And then you listen to the interviews, and they're not talking about how great the man is anymore. They're talking about winning, and they're talking about how that person's getting too much time with this man, you know, and it just changes it from an area of trust, if you will, to maybe even I just don't like what the imbalance does. And so I genuinely think it's harder for women. It's just harder, I think. um
Yeah, you
um,
know what? That's so fascinating you said that, because I just actually had this conversation with one of my men friends the other day where we were talking about he has several women who adore him. I call them his groupies, but and I was just saying, I am not a competitive person. Like, if you are familiar with Gallup Strengths Finder, there's like 52 strengths, and Gallup says focus on your strengths. But competitiveness and woo are at the very bottom of my list. So I just don't compete. I love playing games, but I don't really care about winning. I don't, that's, and so I was saying, well, if somebody came to me and said, I'm gonna, I really love whoever it is I might be dating and I really care about him, I would say, okay, go for it. I would back off. I wouldn't be saying, oh, I've got to fight for this person. That's not, I just don't have that in me. I don't have that. That's not my nature.
and there are
But
some who
I
don't
think there
understand it.
are a lot of women that feel that competitive spirit, and men probably too. But
No, I would agree. And there are a lot of men in my observation, especially my calling on the committee, who don't understand boundaries. And they don't get that what they're doing is actually creepy and pushing away a woman. And so I don't want to show interest in a woman who isn't reciprocating in some way. And I don't know if in their mind they're thinking, well, I want him to fight for me, I want him to prove. Um, but I'm just like, well, if she if I'm showing interest in her and she's not showing interest in me, I don't want to be that creepy guy that isn't getting that message. So I'm going to back away and look for someone else. But I don't know for sure where their thinking is when all this is happening. I just don't.
yeah,
It's hard for women.
hey,
And
I'd love to hear your perspective because the ratio is much greater where you are, right? It's like sometimes 10 to 1 or even greater than that, right?
Even greater than that. I went to a singles devotional on Sunday night, and I think there were 4 men there out of probably 100 people, something.
Yeah. And have you ever talked to him about it, or how do you think they feel? Do they feel uncomfortable, or, have you noticed behaviors that come out in the women, or have the women just given up at that point?
Yeah, I think most of us have just unless someone drops out of the sky, we're not even going to find them. So we don't, it's like, so we're not even looking, and I don't think we're competing. Maybe the mid-single, or there's a bit going on there. I know that sort of 45-year-old group, that's a bit different, but no, this and I'm trying to think of the 4 men that were there. Like at least 2 of them wouldn't be interested. So yeah, I don't.
Dynamic.
It's a very different dynamic. I don't see dating, and maybe, like, I don't know, some of the Australians can comment for us, because it's like, I don't see dating actually as something that people are going to events to do.
Yeah, they're trying to just have a connection and a community, and
Yeah.
as Tom said, have a a family, basically.
Have a family. Yeah, I think it's much more about that. Maybe my eyes aren't open to the other side. I don't know, but I don't see very much happening in the dating pool stuff. So apart from the few I know in that sort of 45-year-old group, that group, I know there is a little bit in that group, but I don't know. By the time you get to like, there's just so many of us. There's so many women and good women, like really good, interesting, capable, it's just, yeah.
After a fireside, I was just visiting with some friends, and the friend group grows bigger and bigger. And there are 2 guys in the friend group. I'd say about 8 women, and they were all so pretty. They're all so pretty in their Sunday dresses and everything, so wholesome, so great. And I looked around, and maybe this is a part you should edit out. I looked around, and I thought, could I actually even make a mistake? I mean, if I just went eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then just said, let's just go do this. They just seem so great. They're such good people, and they're really pretty, and yeah, I mean, it's not that way for the women.
Yeah.
But I think that statistic that I guess is why Kim and I think that's harder for men is that statistic you brought up earlier about how many, only 14 to 20% of men stay active after divorce. That's where the issue is. That
is where the issue is, because that's why the ratio is what it is because
as you
the
said,
men
if
stop
divorce,
going.
there should be one on each side.
Well, and there's some good reasons, I think. I'm in several group texts. So recently in one of my group texts, one of the single women said, hey, I'm a counselor in our primary presidency now. And she posted this photo of herself with primary president, her, the other counselor. And so we're like, congratulations, that's men. But the women are saying, ooh, good skirt choice. Where did you get that sweater? Oh, that's really great. And they're so supportive of each other. And I'm just observing this, and I'm like, yeah, we guys would never do that. We don't support other guys the way girls have this community and even in a culture to be able to do it. So in the group text, since most of us were at a wedding reception the night before, I mentioned to Dawn, I said, hey, Dawn, I loved your trousers last night at the reception. Good trousers choice. And everyone's just laughing, right? And of course I'm doing it to be playful, but it also underscores the fact that we culturally cannot be supportive for other men in the same ways that you guys are for each
That's
other.
funny.
It might contribute to the activity. Oh, so my office light will dim like that if I don't move around.
There you go.
So suddenly the lights, yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's why we say, we think it's worse for men, because it is hard. Like, yeah, saying I like your trousers, whereas nothing about, and yet probably for you saying to a woman, I like how you were dressed yesterday, is already like, oh, does he like me? So you know, like,
you have to be so careful.
And it's my nature to just tell someone they look great.
Yeah.
It just is. It's like, wow, what a dress, or your hair, and everything. And to ask after that, especially when you're married, you want to notice these things about your spouse. If they make a change, you want to be supportive in everything. So these carefully nurtured for decades instincts, I think, do make me get in trouble some. Yeah.
I imagine so.
I guess that's why, we're our podcast, that the name, the Thriving LDS Singles. We want people to know that you can be single and still thrive in the church. And that's sort of what you're achieving or working on achieving.
Thanks.
So, like, tell the men, how are they going to do it?
Well, that's part of what I'm hoping to do there. But also, one of the things that we're intentional about in our committee, when we're game planning for the next conference or the next activity, we remind each other, find people who don't look like they're having fun, introduce yourselves. And we also make it careful to be men find men, women find women. After a fireside a couple months ago, one of my friends who's also on the committee, we were all just visiting because we're friends. We seek each other out and we're talking about it. And she said, oh no, I'll be right back. And she breaks from the group. And I'm just kind of watching her like, what is she doing? And she's found this very, very older guy who seems to be inappropriately close to two girls who I've never seen there before, two women who are probably mid-singles, right? And so the age appropriateness, and you could tell that they're horrified. And then I watched my friend grab the arm of one of them and half drag her to our friend group. So now these two join our friend group, and she says, Tom, keep him here. And she ran around the room and she gathered up all the people that looked like they were in their age group. And I'm like, this girl is amazing. So she gets this group of everybody and she said, no, you guys have to exchange numbers. And after a fireside, I know you're looking around here and thinking it's only old people, but your guys are here. And when you leave and don't come back, it's always going to be only old people. So get your group text going, search for each other when you come out to these activities, and you'll have a friend group that you can get together with and even organize side hikes or something like that with all this. So this is, the work of this committee. And I really admire, of course, this one woman who did that. And I'm thinking, I'm on the committee. I can be doing this more with guys. And so I have tried to be more like her.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. And we all need to do more. We just released one on singles, serving the singles in when we participate in activities and things. And that's a great example of that. So I love that story. So tell me about some ways that you thrive, Tom. Like, what are some of the things that you feel like you're thriving as a single? Some examples.
I would say a big part of my appearance of thriving is appearance of thriving. Sometimes I'm not
Fake it till you make it. Is that what you're doing?
No, I don't believe in faking it till you make it. I believe in persisting until you make it, but not the fake it part.
I like that.
So when I found myself involuntarily single, I only worked because at the job, I'm really good at what I do and people like me here. And so I go to where I feel comfortable. And for the first year, I worked every Saturday. I worked every evening. I didn't have a calling obligation until about 10 p.m. And I worked on Thanksgiving. I worked on Christmas. I didn't have anybody. I just worked because it's where I could be. But it's also BYU with the strong spiritual environment. I remember being in the Cougar Eat, for example, and I got a phone call with some bad news that was just devastating for me. And I looked around and I had two laptops out and food, and I knew I was going to burst out crying and that I wouldn't be able to hold this back for long. But I didn't have time to collect my gear. So I turned to the students in the booth and I said, could you watch my things? I have to leave real quick. And they said they would. And so I burst out and I ran into the woods to a place that I thought was private enough. And I just cried my eyes out. And then had a lot of prayers with Heavenly Father. When I thought I had my composure back, I went back into the Cougar Eat and I sat down. I thanked those students for watching my gear. And, now my food's cold and, I'm just trying to decide, what do I want to do? And then the stranger just walks up to me. And he says, I saw your face when you got that phone call. I don't know what you're going through, but I know your Heavenly Father loves you and he knows what you're going through. And he shared his testimony with me. And I was like, this is the best place in the world to be going through something hard because it's just so many good people and good strangers. And so I think I thrive in a personal way in that I do have a very firm testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I do believe that Heavenly Father is a God, not just a God, but a father. And he cares for me like I care for my kids. And I know that, revelation happens through the prophets and that Christ is my savior. And there are many times where I'm not maybe doing what he would want, but he's always doing what I need. And I'm trying to be aware and grateful on all that. So I think key to when I am thriving is number one, gratitude, and number two, faith. And then maybe number three is hope. It's a long game,
Yeah.
And I, who knows, maybe I'll pass away someday and find myself on the Millennial Singles Committee, doing the technology for that group too, and still searching for someone, but it's a long game. And I have not seen nor ear heard the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. So I keep that kind of focus, but I also try to not be inside myself. I try to be an inspiration to my students and to other strangers and everything. I am literally at my happiest when I think I've just made someone else happy. That is the energy inside of me. And so to bolt on service and make sure that you could potentially be making someone happy, I think that's been my strategy so far of trying to thrive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think they're fantastic things. And I think one of the things we have learnt is that in this single journey is our spiritual strength grows. Like it's, that whole thing about trials can make you stronger is like the yucky side, and yet it's actually the blessing side. It's like,
yeah, I agree. Job tells us that we shouted for joy when we found out what this plan would be. And now that we're into this plan, do we still want to shout for joy? Right. And I wouldn't shout for joy. I would weep with joy, even for the trials, what we're going through now that I'm this far down the road into this plan. I'm okay with it. I just didn't realize it'd be like this and this hard.
Yeah, for sure. You also, in our conversation before we started, you mentioned you're not on the apps. We can't help you with your profile. So tell us a little bit about your philosophy about dating apps.
Sure. So I'm a computer nerd. I'm surrounded by computers, iPads everywhere around me. And they're great. I love them. I love my career. I'm so glad for this choice. But when it comes to dating, I want to look across a room and see a pretty girl and think, okay, I think I want to talk to her. And I want to be really nervous and try to think of how am I going to approach her? What am I going to say? And everything. I just want to do it the analog way, right? And
I like that.
go ahead and fail if I fail. That's all fine with me. I was a missionary for a while. I failed a lot before I would find someone that was interested in letting me in. So I'm just going to keep plugging along that way.
Yeah.
I know there's value in it, and I have a lot of good friends who initially found someone that way. And if I were in Alaska still, I'm positive that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, I was gonna, that was.
But I don't need to here.
Yeah, you are the benefit of being in Utah County, right? Is that there's greater population.
Yeah. Even just BYU campus, if I wanted to just keep narrowing it down, the numbers of really great, faithful people here that are single is okay.
Well, yeah, God's got a plan. You just got to figure out how to fit into the plan and figure out, as I was saying before, I've got to have the guy just fall out of the sky. But, you can actually look around. So
yeah, that's right. Maybe someone will follow me.
Yeah. Sounds like you're doing all of the right things. Oh, I'm supposed to be the timekeeper.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. I think we might be going a little bit long. We probably have talked your ear off, Tom.
I'm pretty sure I'm doing most of the talking.
Well, we really appreciated interviewing you today, and I'm not quite sure we thought it was going to be about dating, but it's certainly a hot topic for everybody. So it's great to hear your insights and understanding of how it feels as a man, because obviously Kim and I can't understand that side. So
yeah. And Tom, maybe do you feel inspired to share last pieces of advice or things that you would share with other singles who are in the same position and what you've learned so far?
Sometimes when I'm leaving the office, I have a receptionist outside my door. I'll tell her, I leave you with a thought. And then I just walk out the door. I'm supposed to leave you with a thought, but I don't think I can get away with that on this one. I don't know, addressing that loss of identity, which I had. There's an amazing talk by President Nelson where he talks about identity, and it wasn't a general conference talk, so you really have to dig around to find it. And he talks about how our primary identity needs to be as children of God. And sometimes we allow secondary identities to rise up. like our political affiliations or the fact that we're single or our race or any of these other things can try to become our primary identity. I think we really have to lock in to that primary identity of us as children of God, which makes you my siblings, and informs how I should be treating you and thinking of you as we're all one big family. I work at BYU and I have a friend who's a social researcher whose specialty is sports. And about a year ago, she told me about burging and corfing. Have you ever heard of those? Burging and corfing are both acronyms. Burge is basking in reflected glory. So I'm a BYU Cougar and my football team's out there fighting and they win and I'm basking in their reflected glory. And for some weird reason, I can feel a sense of accomplishment. Like I did something. I was never in the weight room. I was never putting in the times. I didn't have to memorize the plays. I didn't have to do the reps. I didn't have to beat someone out for a spot on the roster. Yet I feel jubilant over my accomplishment. And that's basking in reflective glory. It's a symptom of identity fusion, that my identity is being fused with something outside of myself, this team. And then the opposite of burgeoning is called corfing, and that stands for cutting off reflected failure. So if the team loses, then I cut off my reflected failure and I'm like, yeah, it was the play calling. I would not have called those plays. That interception was just really dumb. He should have checked his progressions and everything like that. So it's unhealthy that we're taking success credit and then pushing off fail credit in this whole identity fusion. There's an identity fusion that's happening and being accommodated by the internet in politics. For example, if you belong to a certain political philosophy and someone criticizes someone that's a figure in your philosophy, you feel attacked. Nobody's mentioned your name. Nobody's harmed your children. Nobody's taking your livelihood. And yet they can be so angry and defensive about it because they've allowed their identity to be fused to something in the world. So I guess my parting advice would be fuse your identity with Heavenly Father's. Be equally yoked and do your side of pulling as best you can. Trust in the atonement of Christ. Don't let yourself get too down about the lettings down. And if you want to look at it this way, one of the frustrating things about the atonement isn't that you're forgiven, it's that the people who wronged you are just as forgiven. And the people who wronged you are just as loved by Heavenly Father as you are. You have no advantage in God's sight for those things. So lock into your identity as a child of God in this way. Take care to not allow your identity to become fused or dictated by things of the world. So I guess that would be my parting advice.
I love that.
I think, yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Tom, for being part of us today.
Yeah.
We look forward to your podcast coming out. And, Kim and I are here to help in any way that we can.
Yes.
Well, you're helping a lot of us. You're gathering a community. What you're doing is very beautiful for us singles. Thank you. I've enjoyed, especially when my friends are on, I've very much enjoyed what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on. We really enjoyed it, Tom.
All right. Thanks to everybody for being here, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.